The ship's proximity alarm was a soft, persistent chime in the quiet hum of the cockpit. The freighter pilot, a man who had long ago traded ambition for the steady solitude of the shipping lanes, glanced at the scanner. A single weak signal pulsed on the edge of the asteroid belt, a standardized distress pattern, bleeding across multiple frequencies. He sighed, the sound loud in the small cabin. Protocol dictated he log it and forward the coordinates to the nearest system authority, a process that would take days. Out here, days were often a death sentence. His hands moved over the console, altering course before the bureaucratic part of his mind could protest. It wasn't heroism. It was a simple, unspoken rule of the void. You answered the call. The source was a vessel, unlike any he had seen. It was sleek, organic in form, like a smooth piece of obsidian shaped by a gentle current. It was also terribly wounded. Long, jagged scars of molten metal marred its hull, and it listed silently, drifting in the shadow of a large, rocky body. He matched its tumble, his own boxy freighter a clumsy whale next to a wounded swan. Unidentified vessel, this is independent freighter. I am responding to your distress signal. Do you read? Static hissed back. After several attempts, a shudder ran through the alien craft, and a small access portal dilated open. A dark eye beckoning, his mag boots clanged on the strange metal of the interior, which felt warm and faintly resonant, like a living thing. The air was thin, carrying a scent of ozone and something floral. Emergency lighting cast deep, purple shadows. He followed the faint glow, passing corridors sealed by energetic barriers, until he found the central chamber. She was slumped in a chair that seemed grown from the floor, surrounded by dead consoles flickering with weak light. At first, he saw only another survivor humanoid, bipedal. Then the details registered. Her skin held a subtle, opalescent quality, and the fine filaments of her hair seemed to capture and reflect the scant light like spun crystal. She wore a garment of layered, gray mesh, torn and stained with a dark, silvery fluid. Her eyes, when she lifted her head, were vast and deep, the color of twilight. She spoke, her voice a harmonic whisper that came from a small device on her collar. You answered. I did, he said, kneeling, his medical kit open. Can you move? My ship is sterile, but it has atmosphere and a med bay. The attackers, they may return. They sought the core. Her words were halting, the translator struggling. No signs of anyone. Just debris. Let's get you to safety. He helped her stand. She was lighter than he expected. As they moved, he saw other forms in the shadows of the chamber slumped, still. She was the only one left. On his freighter, he tended to a gash on her arm. The silvery blood coagulated quickly under the sealant. She watched him with those calm, endless eyes. You are alone on this vessel? She asked. Usually am. Cargo doesn't talk much. He offered a ration bar. She examined it, took a small bite, and gave a slow nod of thanks. Who were they? Pirates? They are the scourge. They cleanse. They consume. They feared what my ship carried. She looked toward the viewport, at her lifeless vessel. They failed. The core is safe. He did not ask what the core was. In his experience, secrets in space were best left unopened. Well, the nearest outpost is 3 jumps away. I can take you there. You can contact your people. A profound sadness seemed to settle over her. My people are far. The outpost will not have the frequency. I must reach a different nexus point, a place you may know as the Loris Drift. The pilot whistled softly. That's on the other side of contested space. Risky routing. I must ask this of you. I have nothing to offer but gratitude. He thought of his schedule, his contract, the late fees. He looked at her, sitting patiently in his spare jump seat, a being of obvious refinement shattered by violence. He thought of the silent corpses on her ship. "All right," he said. "Might take some creative navigation, but I can get you to the drift." The journey took weeks. She was a quiet passenger, often staring into the star-dotted blackness. She learned the functions of his galley, and would sometimes prepare a broth from his supplies, altering it with small packets from her own remaining gear. It was the best thing he had tasted in years. They spoke in fragments. He told her of the human colonies, of the mundane life of a freight hauler. She spoke of art that was grown, not made, and of harmonies sensed through the skin. She never spoke of her past, or her title. He began to notice small things. The way she carried herself, an innate, unshakable grace, even in his cramped mess. The careful, precise nature of her movements, as if every action held weight. The depth in her eyes was not just alien biology, he realized, but the weight of profound responsibility, not 2 days from the Loris Drift. They were found. The scourge ship dropped from warp with a violent tear in space. It was angular, brutal, forged from dark metal and hatred. Its weapons powered up before its identification challenge even flashed on the comm. "Hold on," the pilot yelled, slamming the freighter into an evasive spiral. The ship groaned in protest. A beam of crimson energy seared past the viewport. "They have come for the core," she said, her voice not fearful, but resigned and firm. "They can't have it." "Or you," he grunted, his hands a blur on the controls. His ship was a freighter, not a warship, but he knew its limits. He also knew the asteroid field ahead was dense. He dove toward it. The scourge ship pursued, its larger size a disadvantage in the labyrinth of rock and ice. The pilot flew a reckless, desperate dance, using his cargo hauler's sturdy hull to scrape through gaps the warship had to avoid. Alarms blared. A glancing hit shook the ship, blowing out a port thruster. "I am drawing their attention." "You will take my shuttle," she said, rising. "Like hell I will," he snapped. "That's a warship. Your little pod wouldn't last a second. It is not for escape. It is a beacon, a royal signature. They will follow it. You will be able to jump to safety." The word hung in the air between them. Royal dot, he looked at her, truly looked. The opalescent skin, the impossible grace, the calm authority in the face of annihilation. He thought of the elegant, dead ship, its crew who had clearly died protecting her. Not a diplomat. Not an envoy. A queen. Another impact. The main power conduit began to smoke. "No," he said, a new idea forming. It was stupid, suicidal, and very human. "You said they want the core. They think it's on your ship, so we let them think they're right." He input a frantic series of commands. "I'm venting our main drive plasma, masking it as a coolant leak. It'll look like we're dead in the water. Then, I'm going to trigger the emergency beacon on your vessel's wreckage. It's still out there, a few hours back. A big, noisy, royal distress pulse." Understanding dawned in her twilight eyes. "A decoy. They will believe I have attempted to return to my ship." "Exactly. They'll go to investigate. It'll take them time to scan that husk. By the time they realize you're not there, we'll have limped into the drift." The scourge ship loomed behind them, weapons charging for a final blow. He executed the command. Clouds of bright plasma ejected from the freighter's vents, and the ship's lights and engines died, leaving them in emergency lighting, drifting. He held his breath. The warship slowed. It hung there, a predator inspecting its seemingly dead prey. Then the new, powerful beacon from the Queen's derelict vessel pinged across the spectrum. The scourge vessel turned, and with a flash, vanished into warp dot in the sudden, tense quiet. The pilot let out a shaky breath. He bypassed the damaged conduits, routing power from non-essential systems. The engines sputtered back to life. "Time to go," he whispered. They limped into the Loris Drift a day later. The station was a grimy, bustling hive of species from a dozen systems. As they docked, she placed a hand on his arm. "You have done more than answer a signal. You have preserved a future. My people will know of this. Of you." He simply nodded, the reality of it all settling on him. "What happens now?" "Now?" she said, and for the first time, he saw the ruler fully emerge. Her posture straightened, and her gentle warmth was joined by an iron certainty. "I go to the communications nexus, and I call my people. The Scourge will learn that attacking a sovereign vessel has consequences." She stepped toward the airlock, then turned. "You asked for no payment, but a debt is owed. When you need aid, send a message on this frequency." She offered him a small, crystalline data chip. "Simply say you answered the signal. They will find you." He took it. "Good luck." "Your Majesty." A slight, serene smile touched her lips. "Thank you, my friend." He watched her walk down the docking umbilical, where she was met by a delegation of tall, sleek beings who bowed deeply. The transformation was complete. The wounded survivor was gone, replaced by a queen. Back on his patched-up freighter, the pilot set a course for his next mundane delivery. The galaxy felt different. Larger, yet somehow smaller. He had ventured into the dark and found not a monster, but a person. He had not rescued a damsel, but had aided a sovereign, and in doing so, had reminded himself of a truth humanity sometimes forgot. Compassion was not a weakness. And sometimes, the most powerful force in the cosmos was not a weapon, but a simple, kept promise answered across the stars.